Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Back Log Banter. It's a little different today. I don't know if you can tell, but there are more of us. For the first time, we have 4 people in one video, and this is going to be somewhat of a new format for us as we step into the next generation of Backlog Banter. And we've recruited a couple more guys. I don't know what sides they're on in the video, but for me, they're both to my left. We got Timo in the corner. He just raised his hand, and we got
That's
Tanner
me.
down there.
Hello.
I really hope these cells are in order when I edit this, but either way, we have more people, and we're ready to talk about a new movie that we all watched together.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes.
2020's Mulan, the live-action remake of the Disney animated classic. And we've got things to say about it, because we had a lot of things to say while we were watching it, and now we're just going to translate that into
I don't think we ever shut up while we were watching it.
No, we did not. But you know what? That's the fun. That was not a movie we really needed to heavily pay attention to, and as we brought up afterward, it probably would have been a lot more boring and a worse experience if we weren't just babbling all the way through it. My esteemed co-host has yet to utter a word. It's that's uncommon for him, but what have you got to say about this whole thing?
Well, I was just sitting quietly and thinking about whether or not my parents have lied to me and I actually have brothers, because I think the comments are only going to be about the fact that Timo, Tanner, and I look fucking identical. And it's going to become an issue. It's going to become an issue, and I think what you should do is start interchanging our name tags on the fucking overlay and see if anyone notices.
I don't think Tucker's name should be Tucker anymore. It should be the guy on the right.
That's fair.
That's what I'm known as. That way. That's what I'm known as around these parts. We got a lot of comments on the Mario 35th Anniversary Direct reaction video saying the guy on the left is a douchebag, saying that he hates Nintendo, saying a lot of rude things. I was called the evil killer guy from Umbrella Academy. I assume they're referring to 4, which I can see. I don't know, but that's a weird insult.
It's become so prevalent that I have started calling Tucker the guy on the left. just unnaturally. It just comes out of my mouth. I don't know what happens.
The important thing to remember is that those comments, we got those comments because those videos were very popular, because a lot of people cared. Today we're talking about a movie that not even the 4 of us care about.
Absolutely not.
So I don't think this video is getting any fucking views. But the point is, we still want to talk to you all about 2020's Mulan. I don't know where to start. Frankly, I have no vested interest in where we begin or end this discussion.
I'll start. Mulan is boring. There you go.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, let's start out with what we liked about Mulan before we tear it asunder. Okay.
Okay, this is very positive outlook,
yeah.
Tanner.
Okay.
There's one thing that I think we can all agree on. This movie has top tier production design. It is absolutely butt nugget crazy.
It looks like it cost $200 million to make.
Wow.
And
it probably did.
We weren't supposed to criticize it yet, but here's what I will say. The production value is not commensurate to the quality of the overall film. Like, from a production standpoint, if you just fucking look at a slideshow of set photos, you would have a much better experience, because this is clearly where a lot of energy went into. And it's one of the strongest aspects of the film. I don't think it's the only strong aspect of the film. I think that some of the fight choreography is actually rather inventive and a lot of fun. A lot of the more technical aspects of the film, I think, are good. A couple of them are bad, like the editing, and we'll talk about it. But there is a fair amount to praise here, I think.
Yeah, I mean, as someone who's not a fan of the original Mulan, I didn't know how to base my opinions on this on. So mostly I was just watching it to watch, and not much came out of it for me.
I've actually never seen the original Mulan.
As someone who's a pretty large fan of the original Mulan and watched it semi-recently, fuck you both, and it's nowhere near the heights of even the I'll make a man out of you segment of that film.
Yeah. Here's what I want to say, because I think we just want to shit on the movie. So here's what I'm going to say. I love Disney. I don't know what Tucker and Timo are on about. But I think that Disney, especially their 2D animated films, have such a wonderful sense of life and expression and vibrance about them that the live action films just don't capture for me. The Jungle Book is my favorite animated Disney film. I watched the live action Jungle Book. I thought it totally missed the spirit. I thought it felt very flat. So I skipped basically all the other ones until Mulan, because I also love Mulan. And I think that this film just felt hollow. I don't think that as a fan of the original, I came away feeling anything other than wishing that I had been watching that original film instead, because it just misses any of the beats and the structure that make that film special.
Yeah, and I mean, I think
Yeah.
that's probably the biggest criticism against this film. It's a little bit simple on the story side because it's a kids movie, but other than that, I mean, they kind of took everything that made the original special in terms of the animated characters with the cricket and the dragon and the musical numbers and those things that were the reason people loved that movie, and they kind of just turned it into a kids war film.
Well, that's the thing. Who is this movie for? If it's a
That's a
kids
really
film,
good question.
it's not funny.
It's not
No.
fun.
There's not even any attempts at jokes.
Like the only joke is the guy that rolls over in the bed. There's one joke in the whole movie.
Yeah.
So, is it for kids? Is it for fans of the original? Because there's no way that they like it. Who is this for, Disney? Is it for is it for China? Is that it?
Let me call up John Disney and be like, "Hey,
Oh, Mr. John Disney.
Mr. John Disney, what are you thinking?"
Mhm.
While you're trying to ring John Disney, I think the live action versions of their animated films for me are a textbook example of Disney spreading themselves too thin, which I think people feel in a lot of respects, but I think in terms of audience appeal, you feel that a lot with their live action films. Because I don't think it has the imagination that draws in kids. I don't think it has the scope and production that makes those films fun for all ages. For me, it felt like they were trying to have a hand in every bucket being carried by a fucking living broom and throw it back to Fantasia. But I just think that they spread themselves so thin to the point where the appeal is just lost.
Interesting that you used buckets or brooms carrying buckets and not the characters in this film that are carrying buckets.
They
I already
quite
thought that
often.
happens.
They
Yes,
quite often
it's-
carry buckets.
Yeah,
The training montage without training montage music.
exactly.
The training montage without the main character really training.
Yeah, we saw literally every other soldier like having a moment of them struggling to carry these buckets up. But then when Mulan does it, it pays off like we've seen her struggling.
Yeah,
Well, she didn't. We didn't see that.
She's just T-posing up the mountain.
Yeah.
Oh, that was.
So I think that kind of plays into the very, 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 very weak script of this movie.
I think the script is one of the weakest parts.
Oh, absolutely. I asked this question while we were watching, but can anyone here explain what the villain's motivation was?
Conquer.
Bori Khan is like, I want to kill the emperor.
Yes, because the emperor killed his father. But I was talking about
I don't remember that.
The witch.
Yeah, because her and Mulan have a moment where they connect over something, which is
being outsiders. I think that is
being outsiders.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
And that was their attempt at making the villain have a connection to the main character, which. Yeah, I mean, no, it didn't really work.
No.
At the end, the witch dies, and Mulan catches the hawk version of her. In her
I think
hands.
we lost him.
Oh God.
No,
he's
back.
Oh, he's back.
What's up?
We're gonna lose him one more time.
Yeah, Jerome does this.
Jerome does it?
Yep, there we go. All right, and please be a quick one.
It's 2 in a row, and then he's fine.
Yep, now we're good.
Okay. All right.
I heard the end of that. I caught the end of that. But Mulan, that actually reminds me of the choppy editing in Mulan. Cutting in and out, you know what I'm saying? This is a good transition.
Yeah.
Mr. Editor, give us your spiel. That's you, Timo.
That's me. Okay. I didn't know I was Mr. Editor. I thought that they worked really hard on all these fight choreographies, and there was a lot of cool like kung fu fights in that, which were, I think, if you wanted to make a point about them, they were in the style of a kung fu movie. They weren't trying to be like realistic, but it's a kung fu. If you want to have it be a kung fu movie, have it be a kung fu movie. And I think when you chop so much, there was periods of times where it was like so many cuts. There was like I couldn't quite follow the action. Which when I could, I was like, okay, this is cool. Like these cool moves. But otherwise, the editing was just strange and weird. And they had like these shots. Be like, okay, we're filming like this way, and then the next shot is like filmed vertically and then rotate, and it just is like pulled me right out of the scene. Didn't make me. It was didn't like it.
The choreography was very good, but the choreography was masked by 3 distinct editing styles that work well when they're executed on completely instead of being in half steps. So if you've seen Upgrade is a really interesting film that plays with the kinetic motion of action and the camera work and physically shifts the frame in really interesting ways. Mulan does that maybe for a fifth of the action sequences. 3/5 of the action sequences are shot like a fucking Bourne Identity.
And for what purpose?
We don't know. It might be for stylistic effect for the 2 times they use it. And when they're not doing that or shooting like the Bourne Identity, there are some really nice CGI heavy, but very nice wide shots that allow all of the action to happen in frame, and they look very good. But it just leaves the film feeling confused from an editing perspective overall. I'm reminded of one Bohemian Rhapsody in the sense that...
Yes, I was thinking
Mulan, best editing.
Now, Abram, are you suggesting that Mulan wins Best Editing at the Oscars this year?
It does edit a lot. There's a lot of
edit a lot.
There's a lot of editing. There's a lot of cinematography too.
And I think that's something that we can talk about as well. Is moving on from the editing during the fight scenes. This movie had incredibly inconsistent cinematography. I think that's what I came out of it with. It's because we were going into it like, oh, these are weird shots. Like they use a weird depth of field focus a lot, like just randomly. But sometimes there are great shots. The establishing shots in particular were consistently great.
Very beautiful landscapes that they were showing, and they showed the whole thing, and it was like, cool.
Yeah, some interior shots of the sets that they built, things like that. Like it looked really good, but then it would shift back to people talking, and it would be really the depth of field would be really shallow, so you could just see them, and everything else was out of focus. And it was like, you should be playing into your strengths. If the strength is in your sets and your costume design and the coherency of the world that you've created, play into that by having deep depth of field, stuff like that. Like, I don't know. Very, very frustrating to me as someone who enjoys
I saw a satirical post online where there was that shot at the end of the movie where Mulan's on the like scaffolding, and the symbolic phoenix, which follows her throughout the whole movie.
Of course,
and it is an animated character in the sense that it has a development or whatever, but it doesn't like matter. It's just there be like, okay, this is symbolic. It's symbolic. The wings go out behind Mulan, and it's the most heavy-handed shot I think in the whole film. It's like, okay, this is important. This is shot, and we thought about the cinematography this movie because those wings are behind Mulan,
and because she is the phoenix, and the phoenix has followed her from the whole movie, and then the phoenix. But the phoenix represents how she rises from the ashes of her father who has a bad leg, and she this is me reenacting what I think the writing room was like.
I remember talking about at the very beginning. I said this movie does not have very much subtleism.
Yeah, no. And that quote was repeated. That was echoed throughout the rest of the movie. We used the word subtleism a lot.
Question,
not subtle.
I don't know. We didn't do any fucking research for the record. I wonder how much of this was shot by like the second unit team, how much was shot pickup, what was done to maybe try to get around any coronavirus issues during reshoots or what have you, because a lot of the inconsistencies to me speak of a troubled production where perhaps various limitations led to various shots being filmed completely differently than others. So I wonder if this would have been a better film if it had released at a different time.
If it had released like a year earlier or maybe a year later.
Yeah.
The question is, does anyone remember what the original release date for this was supposed to be? Because I assume it got delayed.
I don't remember, no.
Tanner.
April 24th, I believe.
Okay, well then I would say that
it was done before they closed down the production studios.
I honestly don't think that this was impacted much by COVID. The release schedule was.
Like Bohemian Rhapsody, the director's a sexual abuser, and so like he got kicked out, and the film like totally had like crazy stuff went on with it, and then it was saved by the editor, and you can see that in the editing because it's fucking nuts at some points. It's crazy, like that shot where they're sitting around outside on the thing, and it's like boom, 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 boom. Like you don't edit like that because you want to. You edit like that because you have to. So maybe some production troubles completely unrelated to COVID were going on behind the scenes there that caused some of the weird inconsistencies.
Yeah. Who knows? I just got the notification that we have 10 minutes remaining in our Zoom call. I don't know what that means for us. When I clicked upgrade, it took me to a website and I had to swipe back. But I think we can probably wrap up this discussion in 9 minutes and 39 seconds.
Okay. So I have a question to pose that doesn't necessarily pertain to just the movie, but seeing as the situation in the outside world doesn't have any signs of letting up, do you think this is a viable release system for
Oh,
Disney
good
with
point.
like Black Widow and whatever else they have that was supposed to come out in 2020?
You
Yeah.
mean having it on Disney Plus where you pay for the subscription
Yes.
and then you like pay
Yes.
for the movie as well?
Yes.
I think the answer is no, and I think Disney recognizes that the answer is no because they had a prime opportunity to announce Black Widow and Mulan coming to Disney Plus in only one
Yeah.
day. And I commented while we were watching that this did not feel like a film in the first place that was supposed to be a theatrical only release.
Mhm.
I think Mulan it had a lot of circumstances that worked for it, and I think if this had been a big screen only film, the reception would not be. I mean, it's already kind of lukewarm in a lot of respects, but I
Yeah.
did not think it would be as positive as it is now because this feels like an inherently smaller screen film, and I think Disney will gamble whatever the real world conditions are when Black Widow comes out to get a Marvel film back in theaters.
I mean,
Interesting.
especially considering now that we are getting big releases out. We just watched Tenet and New Mutants in theaters, and it was a good experience. I mean, obviously gimped in terms of seating, but other than that, it was pretty much identical. And I don't really. I mean, we're kind of in the shit of it right now. You know, coronavirus is running rampant, but the theaters are still gonna be open. So once we see how viable those other movies are in terms of their profits, Tenet and New Mutants and whatever else releases, I think that's going to be part of their thought process going into it. Is like, if putting Black Widow in theaters will bring a lot of attention back to theaters because people have there hasn't been a Marvel movie released since July of last year, and when they release it, that movie is going to do gangbusters.
Mhm.
But if it's not viable in these GIMP seating conditions, then who knows what's going to happen? It honestly could just go straight to streaming.
Do you think they do a dual release, sort of like I think the new Bill and Ted movie did, where they do VOD and in theaters, or I guess in this case it would be Disney Plus for purchase and in theaters?
I think it's going to depend on box office returns. I mean, Tenet, rumblings are that it's not great domestically at all. And I mean, like, I'm in a position where you could have, like 6 months ago, I would have been there opening night for Tenet, but
Yeah.
literally the restrictions of where I am right now, it's just impossible for me to go. So as much as I would like to right now, and as much as I feel comfortable personally going, I think that Disney is going to have to decide for a film that is going to pull people in what the return hit is going to be by going theatrical only.
Yeah.
Or what the Mulan numbers are, because maybe the Mulan numbers are really good.
Yeah, I mean, does Disney even have to release those because it's not a
No.
theatrical release? So we might never even know if the Mulan numbers are good or not.
Yeah.
Interesting, yeah.
I mean, if we don't hear, they're probably not great.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's the silence is deafening.
Here's the thing. We watched this movie as our first recorded movie podcast, not because we were interested in it, but because it was the new release and because it was something new. There really hasn't been a lot new. Something that all four of us could watch because we're in different states. Some of us are quarantined to our homes or whatever. And theater access, consistent whatever access, is not really viable. So I think that honestly, however long quarantine keeps up, this might end up being more profitable than maybe we're thinking now because it is pretty hard to get a lot of people to go to theaters right now. So releasing this does give a lot more people access.
And people are always hungry for new content.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But I mean, what about where does movies and TV fit into this? You know, the Mulan released at the same time as The Boys did, the first 3 episodes of the Prime show on Friday, and like that was released how it would have been released a year ago, 2 years ago. So like, what do you think about how media consumers are going to view the film versus TV and streaming land now that everyone's at home all the time?
I mean, I think Disney is in a weird position with this double-tiered premium release because I watched Extraction, which is not a wonderful film, but with
better than Mulan.
Certainly better than Mulan. Certainly better action sequences than Mulan. But the point is, you could watch that just with your base subscription, and for me, that has a lot more value than this, especially when I could just watch the original Mulan in my base tier Disney Plus subscription. You know, this was a weird one. It's a weird case study. I think it's gonna. I don't know. Frankly, I don't know. I'm talking into my ass.
Yeah.
It's hard to. Sorry, what?
Shall we do final thoughts on
Yeah,
Mulan?
we've got 4 minutes and 40 seconds.
Okay. For me, I feel like it feels like a cheap imitation of the first movie that's longer and also costs exponentially more. Don't watch it for $30. Just wait until early December when you can watch it for free.
Yeah. I mean, I've got friends who are telling me that. Well, I sent a picture of everyone like on my Snapchat that I'm watching Mulan, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, how good is it?" Or I'm not watching that right now. You paid $30 for that? What are you, stupid?
You waste your money for that?
Yeah, and
Yeah,
honestly, they kind of did. I mean,
Yes.
but it
Kinda
got
did.
us $10 per person. It got us this content. So who knows?
Who
That could be
knows?
worth it.
I think that Mulan is a boring, if not a little troubled film, given that it's about Chinese people and it's kind of not written, directed, produced by any Asian people whatsoever. It's
Yeah.
all white people behind the camera. It, in front of the camera, they didn't screw up in the obvious way. So good job for doing the bare minimum, I guess. But
Good job,
other than
Disney.
that, it's like kind of lackluster. That's how I describe it.
Yeah.
For me, this was another example of Disney failing to capture their own magic, and a subtle but very needed reminder of the fact that all of this legacy Disney content is finally available and curated on Disney Plus. So don't waste your time watching this when you have the original Mulan, Peter Pan, Jungle Book, Beauty and the Beast, all of these films that are so much more creative and have so much more merit to them. Don't watch this. Don't pay $30 for this.
No.
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, I think that was a pretty solid discussion. We didn't honestly talk about a movie itself very much, but I think that's okay because I mean I think that just goes to show that the movie's doesn't have a lot to dig into.
No,
It doesn't grab you.
Yeah. But that's it for our first movie discussion. I hope if anyone's watching this far that they enjoyed it. I mean, honestly, this was a pretty good discussion. This worked a lot better than I thought it was going to. When going into this, I'm like, shit, there are 4 of us. We're all idiots, and we're gonna be talking over each other. But no, I mean, honestly,
It
this
works.
format might work a little better than I was expecting. But thank you very much for watching, guys. We have other videos planned. I mean, we've got 2 more people helping us out now, or hindering us. Who knows? We can't say that far in the
A little of
future.
both.
But-
A little of both.
I aim to add and subtract.
I aim to only hinder, so it's gonna get worse, ladies and gentlemen. It's gonna get worse.
Okay, well, Back Log Banter is evolving, to quote Pokemon, but we will see where we go in the future. Thank you very much for watching, guys.
Yeah.
Adios.
Peace.
Peace. Hello, everyone. Oh, fucking goddamn. What do you want to say?
Wow.
Right? Babble brain.
My question was, are you doing the intro? It was answered shortly after I asked it.